Welcome to Withdraw Consent. I'm Jack. This is Victor. So, Victor, do you want more or less freedom?
I would say my answer depends on my age and my understanding of the world and of myself and just of people, I think, in general. But right now, I would say less freedom is better than more freedom.
Explain.
Controversy.
Controversial. Explain.
I would say people in general like being told what to do in certain areas, and they're just better when they're given a purpose. Like for me, I work from home, so I can get up when I want and, whatever. But if I remove that freedom, I make the choice to remove when I get up, and I'm getting up at this time, and I set a schedule, and I don't have the freedom because I'm trying to imagine like I'm in an office. I'm more productive, and it benefits me to remove that.
I see.
And just throughout my life, the more I've been pushed and.
But you wouldn't want the government to impose that loss of freedom on you.
Not this government.
Not this government. But what if it's even a really good government? You don't want them to force you to wake. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it doesn't apply to government.
Okay.
But if the government,
I thought you were trying to.
No.
Okay. I was like, this is gone. I'm not this. This is wild.
No. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Maybe.
Yeah. I would have kept watching just to see like where is this guy going with this? Like man, this dude's wild.
But like, should people be allowed to be free to do bad things, like just go out and murder people and all that? So no, you want less freedom for the murdering.
Right. It just depends on the thing.
Yeah. Right.
It's nuanced as
yes.
Yeah. So I just want to make this video because everybody just is like freedom, and you've got like 6 freedom shirts in your closet, and they got different things on them, but it's always freedom.
Sure.
And I'm like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or they say things like, yeah, thank you for fighting overseas for our freedom.
Right.
What are you talking about? I mean, I'm really glad I didn't have to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, you know what I mean? Your sacrifice. And if, like there was a draft, Vietnam people were forced to go. But like, okay, so those are 2 different things I brought up. Let's talk about the military one.
Okay.
So I was in an antique shop on vacation recently. Told you the story already, and there was 2 old men roll up. They got their veteran hats on, and they're just, one of them's like, yeah, what year were you over there? And he's like, yeah, 1960. And they're like, oh, we paved the way for you. We softened them all up, this and that. And I want to turn around to him and be like, I'm sorry you guys had to go there. You know what I mean? You're courageous for having going there. But do you realize in retrospect how terrible that was? Do you know about the Gulf of Tonkin? It was all a false flag to go in and invade a country. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you realize that all those young men died for nothing?
Right.
They were slaughtered for nothing. They were injured for nothing. This is terrible. We should be having a day of rage once a year for Vietnam. No, they're freedom fighters, though. I don't know what they would answer that question if they did that. That's when I first thought of doing that. I wouldn't just do it spontaneously. And it's like, everybody's got this thing they were fighting for freedom. Oil, maybe, depending on the war. Do you know what I mean? Economic security for us. Economic growth and advancement for us at the cost of hundreds of thousands of brown people in the Middle East. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. When was the last time we fought a war for freedom? For freedom. Go.
Revolutionary War? He said question.
I would put it in the Civil War.
Okay.
Because you got to figure that the South had peacefully succeeded. It was even in Virginia's, in their joining of the Union, that they could back out if they wanted to. And then the bad guys came and said, no, you can't peaceably leave us. We need economic, we need taxation monopoly, they said. We'll kill you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And your women and children and do terrible things to them. And so then they were fighting for freedom.
Okay.
Lost. Then I'd go back to the Revolutionary War. But maybe you can think of like the War of 1812. You could probably throw in there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Foreign adversary, burned our White House. Like it's okay. But a long time ago is the answer.
Yeah.
Not in the 20th century.
Yeah, not in your lifetime or your parents' lifetime.
Or your great grandparents. Unless you can go back to Civil War. Okay. So that's a different subject though than just people just having freedom shirts. Because if you have a freedom shirt, you're not really talking about like the military securing freedom for us.
Right.
You're just talking about like your freedoms, your constitutional rights and stuff like this.
Are you more free today than you were 20 years ago or 40 years ago, or
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, so there's been a loss of freedoms. Like if you think about things like the Patriot Act, and they're talking about a couple terrible doozies right now, but you have some freedoms. Now, I don't know how I want to phrase that. Honestly, I want to be a little careful right there.
okay.
But do you know the thought I'm going for?
I don't think so.
You have some freedoms that you would be better off if you weren't as free in those areas.
Okay.
Your country would be better if you weren't as free in those areas. So
Would you be better as a person if you didn't have those freedoms?
not necessarily. You'd be in less danger, we'll say.
Okay.
So like a really good example is we could just go through the First Amendment really, But like let's do freedom of speech because that's a tacky one. I feel like it deserves its own video. But we've talked a lot about so communism is a cancer, it's a poison, it's terrible, And if you lived in a good system, would you want the proselytizing of communism to be outlawed? It's a speech, not the teaching of communism, not the study of communism, but actually advocating communism.
The promoting of it.
Yeah, if you have a rally and there's 10,000 people there and you're like, we need to nationalize, we need the corporations and all this. You would be better off if they couldn't do that. So you wouldn't be better off if kids couldn't learn about communism in their history class, if political philosophy will say. But you would be better off if they couldn't teach communism in every single other class that the kid has. In math, they're teaching communism. You know what I mean? They're using applied reasoning here to apply communism. It should be illegal though, because it's destroying our country. So do you want the First Amendment or do you want that? What I described?
I mean,
Do you want just absolute freedom of speech like we have, unless like if you're threatening somebody or something?
yeah.
Or can we say communism is out?
Yeah. B. Yeah. The
Right. So I'm only talking about restricting freedoms within a good system. I'm not talking about giving this system any power over taking away even one little iota of freedom.
Because they're terrible. Yeah.
Because they're terrible. But in a good system, you wouldn't have the system, if it's working to the best interest of the people, would not allow the colleges to be making all the kids communists. Right?
Right.
And if you can agree with me on that one point, then you could say you would accept an abridgment of the First Amendment, freedom of speech section of it, to live in a better country.
Right.
Would that make your life better? I'm not in college anymore. It wouldn't make my life any better. Would make my kids' lives better if they end up going to college. I hope they don't, because of the terrible system we live in and the terrible way that the communism is being taught in the colleges, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, long term, if the country becomes communist, it's bad for everyone.
Right.
So it is in everyone's best interest to not go down that road.
Right. And we could just go down the line here, because you could go to freedom of religion, and you could say, boy, which one do you want to do?
Who do you want to offend?
Who do you want to offend? Okay, let's do Judaism. Okay. We gave this example before. It's in the Talmud, the rabbinical writings of Judaism. And basically, like there's a passage and it says you can't molest your neighbor's children unless they're goyim, which means unless they're non-Jews. So it's a sin to molest them if they're Jewish. It's not a sin if they're not Jewish.
You don't even have to be sorry that you did it.
Right. You've done no wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we could just be honest, you can't be my next door neighbor.
Right.
It's not gonna work. You know what I mean? Somebody's gonna die. That's terrible. You're just filth. You know what I'm saying? Now they think they can do it because we're filth.
Right.
Because of their incredible superiority over the goy. But what I'm saying is, in a good system, we would say you have the freedom of religion, with the following exceptions, which means you can still learn about Judaism. You can still have Judaism books in your house. You can still read them. You can't proselytize and you can't practice.
Right.
Because if you do that, you're condoning the morality of doing terrible things to my children.
But on some level, you've made yourself an enemy of all the people,
right?
The people you were living with,
right,
in near, like your community.
Right. And you could pull dozens more examples out of the Talmud. If you want to go in depth into that, you could look into that. But there's just terrible things in there if you're not Jewish. If you are Jewish, Works out great. You can lie in court and just do a ceremony once a year and just take an oath. You know what I mean? You're absolved. You can just lie all year long, you know?
This isn't about how, like, they need to change their laws. It's just we're different.
Right.
They need to not be among people who believe other things.
Right. And then my point on the freedom thing is we don't want absolute freedom of religion.
Right.
I mean, if you want to go be a Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Protestant, Catholic, go do whatever you want, live your best life. But when it comes to something that's exactly opposite the way of life that we want, the way of life we want is safety for our children, not being molested by their neighbors who are just pieces of filth, you know, it's not going to work.
Right.
So less freedom would make you more safer, would increase the quality of your life, no matter where you live. You know, you'd be a black person, doesn't live near any Jewish people. You know, you could live in the inner city, and then you go out one time to the jewelry shop, lose sight of your kid for a couple seconds because you're buying your, you know what I mean? And then boom. You know what I mean? You're affected. Like, that wouldn't affect me. I live in the ghetto or something. No. You know what I mean? Could affect anybody.
Yeah.
And all the children who your children are interacting with who also been abused. Okay. That's pretty self-explanatory. And I'm not saying there's I could go down the list. Like, I'm not going to do the Second Amendment and say, here's where we should red flag people. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. I'm not going to do that. I'm not saying it's everyone. When it comes to like the First Amendment, we're talking about right to peacefully assemble. I can't think of a restriction I would place on it that would increase the quality of life of people. All I'm trying to do is to convey the point that don't just do freedom.
Right. Absolute freedom should not be the goal.
Right. So it's right before July 4th right now. When we post this, it'll be after July 4th, and you'll be reflecting upon your July 4th celebrations. And you'll have remembered yourselves launching freedom bombs into the air. It literally said freedom bomb on the side. Right. You know what I mean? And then you'll have been in conversation with your neighbors and friends, church, family, everybody. Just think back and think about the things that were said about freedom. Remember that prayer that was given that said, thank you, Lord, for all of our freedoms, you know? Okay. It's a nuanced thing.
Right.
Don't think in the gray. Don't think black and white. And really think through like where you want your country to go. And still, I'm just going to reiterate, this system gets zero of my freedoms.
Right.
They'll still take them. 100%. They'll strip them. It'll go until people get furious enough.
But you're never going to advocate for that.
Right. I was once told that every time you vote, if it's going to give the government any more money to do any more projects, just vote against it, no matter what it is. It could be like, we really need to fix this water supply. Nope, because you're going to abuse it. You're going to be terrible. Transfer the money from somewhere else. I give you zero permission to grow, you know? So that's what I got. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I don't think I can even refine it anymore.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah. This requires a ton of critical thought too.
Yes.
Like you have to literally just start thinking about these things. So you'll be watching a video and somebody will be like, 10th Amendment, they'll say. What? Just think about it. You know what I mean? 10th Amendment's a very good one, I think. Reserves the powers to the state, you know?
Okay.
To the states over the federal government, which we need more state power would be better to in this system. Anyways, but just critically think about everything. Even if it's something like the 14th Amendment and equality, you know? Just think about it.
Yep.
That's what I got.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this? Are you, I want all the freedom, or can you see the value in there being less freedom for the good of the people and that type of thing? We'd love to hear your comments or anything you got to say about this.
Got one more.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just cut you off. But check this out. Do you remember when we were giving freedom to Iraq?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we were giving freedom to Iraq.
Uh-huh.
And France said, we don't want to kill them all. And so we said, we're going to change our French fries to freedom fries because we're giving freedom to all the Iraqis. So we'll not have French fries, we'll have freedom fries.
Right.
Just imagine the thinking going on. When I was a kid, I ate freedom fries. I love freedom fries. And I'm so glad that we gave freedom to the Iraqis. You know, when I was a kid, I wore the shirt. It said bomb Saddam, you know?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I just wanted to, if you remember that, you've got to be like, oh my gosh. We were pouring out the wine because it came from France because they didn't want us to give freedom.
Right, to assault some other country.
Yeah, like you have to think back on that. And if you don't know about this, it was mass hysteria.
Right.
No, not one human being. Okay, there were a couple, but not really a lot. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody I knew was. Anyways, okay, go ahead. When do we film our new videos?
We release new content Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern. Hopefully you come back, check out our new content, or check out our backlog. We've got lots of historical pieces, just videos to help teach you what to look for in the media and that type of thing, so you can see the patterns that we see. And hopefully you'll find something interesting. Hope to see you next time.